I don't care how old you are, whether you're at school, university, college, whatever it may be, this is what you're going to do if you want to get 100% in any exam at all. The foolproof method that I used to get perfect grades at school, I got 5 A stars in my A levels, almost all grade 9s at GCSE because I did get 2 8s, and I now study economics at the London School of Economics. I graduate this year, but this is what I'm going to be doing to make sure I get that very top grade in my degree, and the things that you can do if you want to get the perfect grades in your exams as well. So this video is going to split your exam up into a few different sections, and it's going to talk about revision. It's not just talking about revision though, it's talking about how you get marks in the exam even if you don't necessarily know the answer. It's talking about how you revise effectively, it's talking about how you answer exam questions so that you can get the most out of them, you can juice every last mark out of that essay, and it's going to help you no matter what stage of your educational journey you are in. And by the way, I'm posting my top study tips and tricks every single day on this account, so be sure to like and subscribe so that you do not miss out. Step 1. The content. Right, there is no getting around this. You just do need to know stuff. You need to know the content, you need to understand the content if you are going to get 100%. There is no magical life hack that is going to get you perfect grades if you quite simply don't know anything. But what is the most effective way to learn? Of course, you will cover concepts in the class, but this isn't enough. You can't cover something once and expect to remember it forever. And that is because of something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. This psychologist came up with the idea that you will start to forget things a certain number of days after you cover it. So you need to use spaced repetition, make sure you're covering the content again and again and again, so that you are able to retain it more effectively and for longer periods of time. You need to be using this throughout the year. There are only 4 steps to learning anything at all. There is such a common misconception that you just cover something in the class and you have learned it. Not at all. There are 4 steps and you need to make sure you follow every single one of them if you are going to get good grades, if you are going to retain that information, and critically, if you are going to understand things. Step 1, obviously, is digesting information. You need to get it from somewhere. You can't do the next steps unless you actually have that information that you have taken in. Most of the time this will be done through a class or through a lecture. However, you can do this yourself. If there was anything that you misunderstood the first time around, you can go watch a YouTube video on it. You can get a textbook, you can read back through your notes. You need to be able to take in this information if you are to learn it. Step 2 is understanding. Topics get quite complex, especially at degree and even for me during my A levels. It wasn't enough to just cover the content first time round in class. I had to go over it a few times to really get my head around what was going on. So step 2 is understanding. Go through what you have just covered and make sure you really do get it. Make sure you understand what is happening, how it relates to the other subtopics, and why you have covered it. I find that personally a great way for me to do this is to make notes in a way that makes sense to me and answer the... So I wouldn't just say, oh, a plant cell has this shape and an animal cell has this shape. I would say, why is this? I would ask myself that question out of genuine curiosity. And when you show a genuine interest in what it is that you're studying, you are much more likely to remember it. Now, the next step to understanding something is understanding that you can apply it in an exam, so you should be applying your knowledge straight away. For maths, would you stop at just learning about Pythagoras' theorem, or would you give it a go yourself? Would you try an exam question to make sure you really understood what was happening? Because this tests your ability to actually get the marks in the exam and tests that you've understood what you're doing in the context of the rest of the course. Oftentimes when you go through your textbook for maths or science, it will link different topics together in these exercise book questions. This is really important for you because this is the only way that you are going to get the best marks in the exam. And examiners do this on purpose. They will link different topics together in the hardest questions to distinguish between those A grade students and those A star grade students. And another fantastic tool for understanding is the Feynman technique, taking a concept and teaching it to somebody else. I recommend you go home and you talk to your parents about what you were learning in school that day. They will learn something and they will be asking you questions. They will say, Okay, well, why is this? What was the point in learning about mystic Berling and inspector calls? They might say, oh, well, why did this happen? Why did that happen? That will really test you. Did you understand what was happening, why it was happening, and did you critically analyse what you were doing? If you can't answer those why questions, then this demonstrates a gap in your own knowledge. Step 3 is memorising. Look, you can't get around it. For the majority of exams, there are things that you just need to memorise. There are things that I need to memorise at university. But I remember in my GCSEs just remembering so many formulas, remembering these stupid tests for chemistry hours, and loads of quotes for poems, and a lot of it is a memory game. So there are times that you do just need to remember things. Why do I know that Hong Kong's export to GDP ratio in 2010 was 216%? I don't know, and I'm in my 3rd year of university. The point is that you need to know these things, and the best way to do this, in my opinion, is through flashcards and through spaced repetition. Like I was saying earlier about the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, this is a fantastic way to beat it. Especially when this information is very specific, a very specific definition, a very specific formula. You will be able to utilise this in an exam question, and short pieces of information like dates, like numbers, like percentages. I think flashcards are the best way to go about this. That's memorising short pieces of information, but like I was saying, you need to be consistently reviewing so that you make sure you don't forget things. Because when you are doing something that requires more critical evaluation, you need to make sure you have remembered the entire concept, and I think one of the best ways to go about this is blurting, so writing down every single thing that you know. And finally, application, spaced. You should have already tried to apply your knowledge in some way, but revisit this topic a few days later. This is an element of your spaced repetition, and try to answer the question. Don't have your textbook in front of you. See what you can retrieve from your long-term memory. This also tests whether you understood what was going on and whether you baked it into your long-term memory. Additionally, the point of this is you can try a variety of different questions within a topic. You can hone in on those questions that you get wrong. You might have understood the general idea of what the topic was trying to convey, but you just didn't understand this very niche slither. But you just didn't understand this nuance of what was happening, and you need to focus your revision on that. Maybe you need to go back and ask your teacher about it, or watch a YouTube video on it, or whatever it may be. Now, getting the marks in the exam is another beast, and this needs to be an element of your revision if you are going to get 100%. It's not enough to just know all of the content. You need to understand how to answer an exam. You need to have that good exam technique. I told you earlier I got perfect grades at school except for in 2 subjects, and I got the grade below the perfect grade because I didn't have this good exam technique. This does need to be an element of your revision. How are you hitting those assessment objectives as outlined in the mark scheme? You need to be able to identify where you are getting marks and where you're picking them up. So in standardised exams here in the UK, you will have different assessment objectives. So knowledge is your knowledge marks, it's your AO1, it's your, did you remember this information? Can you define this term? Do you know Pythagoras' theorem? Then you have application, it's applying this knowledge to new setting. You will similarly in maths, you will get marks for laying out your information in a very coherent manner. You don't want the examiner to be trying to get you marks. You want it to be very clear to them where you are picking them up. You need to understand how long to spend on each question. You need to understand how to manage your time in the exam. And for this reason, you need to be doing entire practice papers as a part of your revision under time conditions. But in addition to this, not just doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. If you're writing an essay and you're missing like a few marks every time, and you just don't understand how you can get better, you need to switch something around. Go look up a new paragraph structure, read some model answers, read the examiner's report for a couple of the previous years. See where other students slipped up and make sure that you don't make the mistakes that they did. You need to understand how long to spend on each question. You need to understand how to manage your time in the exam. And for this reason, you need to be doing entire practice papers as a part of your revision under time conditions. But in addition to this, not just doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. If you're writing an essay and you're missing like a few marks every time, and you just don't understand how you can get better, you need to switch something around. Go look up a new paragraph structure, read some model answers, read the examiner's report for a couple of the previous years, see where different students split. See where other students slipped up and make sure that you don't make the mistakes that they did. Do every single past paper that you can get your hands on, and if you run out of past papers, make sure you just ask AI to create you some more questions. Give it the specification, give it your module outline, and ask it to create some model questions and answers. Test yourself again and again and again. It is so important if you are going to get those perfect grades. Finally, the real question that is on your lips. How do you get the marks in the exam if you don't know the answer? So there are a few different ways that you can go about this, but it kind of comes back to the idea that you need to understand how the marks are allocated and broken down. If you have no idea how to answer a question in GCSE biology, and you know it's a question on photosynthesis, but you have no idea how it works, you didn't understand it, you missed that lesson, you will probably still get 1 out of 6 marks in a 6-mark question if you put down a definition. And you'll probably get another one if you apply it to that specific setting. Similarly in maths, oftentimes you'll get marks for a formula. Similarly in any essay subject, you will get a mark for knowledge even if you don't necessarily know the answer, or you don't understand how to write and structure an essay. If you just put down a definition or a fact, you demonstrate to the examiner that you know something and that you don't know nothing. If it's relevant and it's on the mark scheme, you may be able to pick up a mark. You can also try your hand at educated guessing. So when you have a multiple choice question, you will probably have 4 answers or more. You can rule out some of the answers as being ridiculous or stupid. Then if you are guessing between 2 or 3, you're going to have a higher probability of randomly guessing the right answer if you're guessing out of 3 as opposed to 7. These statements that include words like must, always have a very strong sense of modality. They can usually be ruled out. Not always, but if you are guessing, more often than not, it's never the always will have this or never ever has this. In addition to this, do not waste time on a question that you do not know the answer to. Come back to it at the end. This is something I struggled with for a long time because I would just want to sit there and try and figure it out. Unfortunately, you're under time constraints in an exam, and you need to understand that even if you don't get that question, you need to understand that even if you get the question in the end after sitting there for 20 minutes and ruminating on what the answer may be, you are going to shoot yourself in the foot because you will run out of time to finish the rest of the paper. In summary, if you know all of the information, you have a stellar exam technique, and you understand how to get the marks, even when you don't necessarily know the answer, you will give yourself the best chances of success in any subject at any level. If you like this video and you found it helpful, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys!